Hey everybody, welcome to episode 117 of the Askdap show, where I answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. On this episode, we talk about refinishing wheels, the accuracy of the OBDeleven, and DSG transmission failures.
Andrew via YouTube says, how accurate is the OBDeleven? I had a cylinder 4 misfire for months, swapped plugs, swapped coils from cylinder 1 to 4, and did a carbon clean. All still going.
Alright, so this question was asked on a video that we recently shot talking about misfires. We had an older one from Mark 7, we reshot another one because the interface is slightly different for different models. But basically he's asking about the accuracy of it. I'm a little bit unclear as to exactly what you mean by this, because accuracy of the scan tool is not in the scan tool, it's that the vehicle is telling the scan tool that it's misfiring. So if the OBDeleven says that it's misfiring, then the vehicle thinks that cylinder is misfiring. So how accurate it is, I would generally trust it to be the case and not just assume that it's wrong in any way. If you're saying you're not able to solve it through this problem, so I went through the steps of diagnosing it, but once you get past the steps of swapping the ignition coils and the spark plugs if the misfire is not moving, the next step, and this depends on the model as to how prevalent of an issue it is potentially look at maybe injectors. If you have a single cylinder misfiring, TSIs have some pretty common injector problems. I'll link to an article that we have about that in the description where you can check that out. Other models could have a bad fuel injector. You can consider swapping fuel injectors from one cylinder to another, but they are something that is not easily swappable and something that may not be practical for you to do. Some people may, because actually TSI injectors are pretty inexpensive. We have Bosch ones, I think they're under 50 bucks each. In that circumstance, you'd probably be better off just replacing the injector, because the amount of work it takes to get the manifold off is pretty significant. So it may be the road you might want to go down before, instead of going through checking carbon buildup, which is a problem that causes misfires, but that would be, instead of a single cylinder, it would be a spread across all cylinders, or definitely not just one. And if you were replacing an injector, you could always pull the intake manifold, clean the carbon while you're in there anyway, which I would recommend no matter what, if you're cleaning or if you're pulling a manifold off on any direct injection cars while you're in there, unless it's just completely clean when you get in there, clean the carbon off and solve your misfire. So hopefully that helps answer that question. And again, once you get past those fuel injector, spark plug, ignition coil, that's basically going to be, or a vacuum leak causing a wide range of misfires across all cylinders. But once you get past the basic misfire stuff, the next step is going to be cylinder leak down tests and compression tests to determine if you have something going on in that cylinder specifically.
John O'Neill via email says, the transmission of my Mark 5 GTI, no mods, has to be replaced. VW said they will not cover under warranty because they can't find out if the 40K DSG service was done. My dealer is now looking for $5,700 to put in a new transmission. My problem is I've only owned the car for 8 months, so I'm being punished for something that's beyond my control. I'm not in a position where I can afford it, nor do I want to spend that much on a car that's maybe worth $9 grand. Can you forward any suggestions or provide some help?
All right, John. I feel bad for anybody who's always in these situations, and I feel for you, and hopefully I can give at least a couple things, share some insight, and then maybe give you a couple options to help you get yourself in a better circumstance. First, as far as getting the maintenance records, yes, that's going to be a problem. For anybody out there who is looking for warranty issues, you oftentimes will be required to provide the proof that you actually maintain the vehicle properly for the warranty. Now, I'll say this, with an 09, I'm not even sure how they would be covering under warranty. There may be some sort of goodwill if they could figure out, they could work with VW to try to get partial coverage for you. Generally, the fact that you're second owner oftentimes will mean maybe even third owner, depending on that vehicle. You're not going to get coverage. Oftentimes, if you were to have owned it from new and then maintained it through that time and had records of that, there would be the ability for them to say, okay, here's what we can do for you, whatever. Again, I feel bad for your circumstance, but you got to keep in mind, the vehicle you have, while it's terrible you have a transmission problem, it's a 9-year-old car. Any car that's 9 years old has the potential to fail. It has nothing to do with not necessarily a failure-prone part, which on the later model cars, DSGs, didn't really have problems. Earlier ones had Mechatronic unit issues. If it's a later model car, the Mechatronic units were fixed by that point. So the transmission-related issue is, I wouldn't say a fluke because it can happen, but they're not common by any means. It's not a widespread issue. So I would be surprised if they did cover it actually. Now, what I would recommend is bring it to a Volkswagen Audi specialist, get your second opinion, to have them double check to see what's going on. The DSG transmissions have a couple things that could be problems. Clutches were one of them, Mechatronics units were the other one. Outside of that, there were not really too many replaceable, serviceable components that you would often be replacing. Then the next step would be probably going down the road of a used transmission. Factory reman transmissions, we can get one for you, but they're very expensive. And it's not generally the route I recommend for most people in your circumstance because, again, like you said, you're talking about spending a ton of money on a car that is not worth it. So if you can get yourself a used transmission for, I don't know, $1,500 and get it replaced for another $500 to $1,000, you're out of the door for $2,500 as opposed to $57, which is it's still not cheap, but you're talking about a much bigger difference, and that would be the route I would go. But first, get a second opinion to see if maybe they can take a look at it and determine. Dealerships are not often in terms of diagnosing transmission repair issues, are not usually something that they are frequently involved with. So they may be recommending something based on their experience, and you may want to take it to somebody who tends to do more repairs themselves. But again, the dealership also might be able to help you with a used transmission as well. I know when I was at a dealer, we did often get used transits for people, and they're still not cheap, but can be an option. And maybe you can find somebody on a forum somewhere that has the same trans that you can purchase used yourself.
Ryan via Facebook says, if a shop dropped my wheel on its face, should I push for refinishing?
All right, so Ryan asked this in the Facebook group for Mark 7s. He has a Mark 7 GTI, and if you're not familiar with the wheel he has is an Austin wheel, which here's what I wanted to touch on this because I think this is a common thing, especially because Mark 7s are, number one, a big part of our community, but also the type of people who would be likely to service their wheels if they were to get curbed and stuff like that. Austin wheels, and also I'm pretty sure all the Golf R wheels are also machined as well. So they use a machine finish, and what that means is that instead of having a painted coating on them outside, which would make them silver, they use a machine finish and then clear coat over top of that, and actually those wheels have a black insert that's painted on and then a machine finish. But the problem you run into with those type of wheels is you can't duplicate that through a wheel repair company. And so that always becomes a problem when you go down the road of these situations is you can try to repair a machine wheel, and you're going to get probably not great results. If you're somebody who's very into cars and pay attention to your stuff, you're probably not going to be happy with the end result. So in that circumstance, you'd almost be more likely to either try to work out some kind of discount or replacing wheels. Again, I'll link to our Austin wheels. We sell quite a few of them. They are pretty inexpensive, in my opinion, relative to what wheels historically have been as far as cost. But it is something that you're not going to likely be able to have somebody who's going to repair that and have it look perfect. Now, if you just curbed it and you want it to not, be all gnarled up, certainly there are guys, I've worked with people in the past. There's a local guy who I've worked with who's done some repair on, I think, a finished wheel I've seen him do a repair on that was okay. It wasn't glaringly obvious that it was a repaired wheel, but if you look close, you can see where it was repaired because it's not the same exact machine finish. So hopefully that helps, but I would say in these circumstances, replacing wheels is really going to be the only way you're going to get that perfect fit. And doing tires with, kind of people who are kind of those low-level, entry-level people who are doing tires sometimes, they're probably the most likely people to damage wheels. But I can tell you this, from my experience, doing low-profile tires makes it sometimes super hard to avoid any type of surface scratches or whatever because the tools you have to work with to mount and balance tires. So it's not always easy as you would think it would be to avoid that, but this type of thing was clearly they were clearly dropped and gouged pretty badly. So this is not just a machine finished stuff that would be on the smaller end. This was definitely pretty significant. So hopefully that helps answer that question. Thanks so much for watching episode 117 of the Askdap Show, where I answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. If you have any questions or comments about the questions answered in this show, be sure to leave them in the comments below. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like it.